So you clicked on a video on how to deal with conflict in the workplace. And if you did, then you probably already know firsthand how mentally and emotionally exhausting it can be. When we have an unresolved issue with another person or anything unresolved, it creates an uncertainty loop in our brain that spins over and over and over again. And like one of those snowballs in a cartoon movie where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, sucking up everything in our life, like our time, our energy, our ability to work or be present with the people in our lives, the longer it goes unresolved, the more time and energy it takes up, robbing us from everything else that's important to us. And so are we gonna be able to resolve conflict in a video? Well, probably not. But what I hope to do is to help guide you through a process to maybe break out of that loop, gain some new perspective, some potential steps forwards to start working towards resolution, or at a minimum, just beginning to let go a little bit of what's been going on so you can begin to move on. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Chris Littlefield. I'm the founder of a company called Beyond Thank You. I write for Harvard Business Review, and I spend the majority of my time training people how to do the little things to build and maintain our relationships and address issues when they're small so we don't get into this space in the first place. But the truth is, if you're human, you're gonna have conflict. If you work, you're gonna have conflict. And although people say every conflict is good fun, conflict doesn't always feel that way sometimes. So the disclaimer I wanna give before I go is, in order to resolve conflict, we need to be willing to challenge our perspective. And doing so is not always comfortable, and we're not always open to doing it. I'm gonna share why in a little bit. And I'm gonna also share a story about how I resolved a 2-year toxic dynamic with 2 of my coworkers through a 15-minute recognition activity when nothing else worked. And I'm gonna share that activity later on in this video. And you can use this both in this situation and also in the future. I'm gonna explain why it worked. And then lastly, just gonna share some simple things you can do to try to avoid getting into these situations in the future in the first place. And the other part is that it's just normal. Just normal. And so I just want to remove that thing that even as a person who does this, I got into a conflict 2 days ago with my wife and with my kid and with somebody that I worked with a couple weeks ago. And it's just something that happens. Now, the biggest disclaimer here is if this is a workplace issue and there's been bullying, harassment, slander, abuse of power, someone's violated a major company policy, done something illegal, then you need to bring the issue to HR and you need to start there and you need to report this. And if you haven't already, or maybe you've tried to and it didn't do anything, then, well, we need to start working on an exit plan from that organization if that's the case. And sometimes that's not always easy, but I just want to acknowledge that. So where do we begin? Well, we begin in the beginning. But the challenge is, unlike a book, we can't just open up and go, oh, here's page 1. This is where it all started. That was the root cause of the problem. Because the longer it's gone on, the more chapters we add to the story, the more it's gotten elaborate, the more fodder we've gotten to be angry at this person and all the rest. So what I want you to do is I want you to take out a piece of paper and I want you to go back and where did your relationship with this individual change? What was the moment? What was the date? What was the incident that happened? What was said? What wasn't said? What was done? What wasn't done? Where we decided or when something changed inside of our relationship. Okay? So just get clear on that. Pause for a minute if you need to and just go back. And not to what happened a month ago, but where did the change in relationship begin? Okay? So just get clear on that. And then here's the thing. Many times when we have a conflict, we often tell this story over and over again in our head. And many times we start telling it to other people. And we tell the story about what happened and why it's wrong. And like with any story, there's oftentimes there's a villain, there's a hero, and there's a victim. And when you're telling the story, which one are you? Which one is the other person? And I can pretty much guess. And by the way, if I asked the other person, I'd be asking them the same thing. But my guess is the other person is probably the villain and you're probably the hero or the victim. But the challenge is, as soon as we've put that label on the other person, then it's really hard for them not to become the villain. It's really hard for us not to be the hero because if they're the villain, everything they do is usually wrong. And if we're the hero or we're the victim, then everything we do is usually justified because we see our actions through our intentions and we see their actions through our judgments of their actions through our narrative. And so here's the hardest part about conflict. The only way it begins to change is not by waiting for the other person to change, but being willing to change how we view the scenario and how we view the other person. So now let's bring it back to the conflict that I had with my coworkers that got transformed through that 15-minute recognition activity. So to have a little context, we'd been working together for 2 years. The frustration had built, the anger had built. We were oftentimes could barely be in the room together without getting into fights. We all knew what was going on. We had tried to talk through it. We shared all the things about how we were going to work together, but there was one missing piece. And that missing piece got shifted through the recognition activity. We were at the end of a debrief. We had already been fighting all day. And I turned to my coworker who was from Azerbaijan. And this was an Armenian-Azerbaijan dialogue program. And I go, Charlie, okay, we need to do something different. What do you want to be acknowledged for? Nothing, Chris. I'm not doing this stupid American stuff. I go, Charlie, what do you want to be recognized for? Nothing. I'm not going to stop asking until you answer. And so finally, she shared that the participants from her country, from Azerbaijan, came up to her and told her she was a traitor to her country for being there. And she went back out and she kept on facilitating for like another 6 hours. And in that moment, all I did was ask her, what do you want to be acknowledged for that I don't see? And when she shared that, my whole perception of her changed. Because for the first time, I got, and I never quite fathomed before, how hard it must be for her to step in front of a group of her peers who told her she's a traitor, and she sat there in front of them and kept on facilitating even after they said that. And did she change? No. But in that moment, my perception of her changed. So the thing is, many times what holds us stuck in conflict is being unwilling to let go of the banana. Now, if you've ever heard of the monkey trap, and I think The Simpsons has the best reenactment of this, is there's a thing about how they catch monkeys, is they put a basket out, they put a small hole, they put a banana inside, and then the monkey reaches in and grabs a banana. Well, for Homer, he reaches into a soda machine, grabs a soda that he wants to get out, and then they have to cut the machine off him, and as they're cutting it open, they realize, Homer, you're just holding onto the can. He goes, but I really want it. I don't want to let it go. And when they finally realize that, he lets go and his arm pulls straight out. And many times with conflict, that's all it takes, is we're oftentimes holding on to our own version of the banana, or in Homer's case, the can of soda. We're holding on to being right. We're holding on to our view that we've been wrong, that they challenged our dignity, that they hurt our feelings, that they were not fair. In many cases, they probably were. It probably was in that moment. But here's the thing. The question is we may be holding on to it, but what is it costing us to hold on to it? And what might we not be seeing? When we're running with Jaleh and Phil, my partners in the conflict resolution program, or in any program, in the middle of the dialogue, while we're talking about some of the toughest things, we'll often write understanding equals agreeing. And then we'll ask people, is this true? And they go, no. And we'll put a little cross sign through the understanding, because understanding doesn't equal agreeing. But many times we feel like if we understand the other side's point of view, or we seek to understand it, then it's going to somehow challenge or diminish ours. But understanding another point of view never diminishes ours, it only expands it. So in the end, if we want to break out of this cycle and we want to start working towards resolution, it starts with being willing to let go of the banana. And that banana is being willing to remove the label of villain off them and the label of hero and victim off us. It's being willing to ask and explore what may have happened from their point of view. And if you do, and you're willing to ask them and take a little bit of responsibility, you may just see you can let this go and also let go of the impact it's having on your life. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe to the channel and check out some of the other ones. And if you've got a conflict between two people on your team, then make sure you check out my video, How to Deal with Conflict as a Manager.